All right, we're in chapter 30 this morning, doing the review. Um, I, I didn't get a chance to watch the class from Tuesday. Was there anything that was particularly more difficult about this chapter, or um, are you guys still hung up on anything from kind of the past few chapters that we've been in participles, or just kind of want to hear where you guys are at before we
I
go
I
any
think
further?
me and Jake were discussing this, that it's just the charts and everything are getting, like, remembering the charts, remembering it. I feel like participles, you can it's easier to see a participle, but for me, I'm having trouble with, like, the translating side of it, of like when to use after, when to use while, and those types of things. So and I feel like I've always had this struggle of, like, just the translating side of it, that art and science part of it.
Yeah. So a suggestion I might make there is translate it literal first, like
Okay.
kind of using the that ing. Like I think here he on page 338, Mounts talks about how in translation, he says my general suggestion is to use after having. So like if you were to say after having eaten. So
Yeah.
regardless of what tense or what aspect the participle is, go ahead and just pretty much do your literal translation as the ing form. So whether that's having or being or literally doing or whatever the singing or whatever the verb um, is represented there in the participle. Go ahead and translate it that way, and then once you have that translation, you're going to obviously see like this doesn't make any sense when I read it in English. When I read this sentence in English, it feels very awkward. So now you smooth it out. Now you add the after or while or um, you kind of use that helping word along with the participle. Does that make sense?
No, yeah. Yeah, I think so. With that, it's just, um I guess that plays into, like, context side of it, like looking at the verse itself and how it better flows with
Mhm.
the other words. Literally translate it and then start working out how to properly say it.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. It's um, like translating Spanish to English. Obviously, I'm not fluent in Spanish or anything, but I know probably enough words to get myself in trouble. So when I think like taking Spanish words back into English, sometimes I know that there are certain words and phrases that don't carry over quite literal. Um,
That's, well, I was about to ask that. Is there times in the Bible that we run into that side of it, like a phraseology or something like that, that in our culture we might not?
well, here's what I mean.
Okay.
So what is the word? The Spanish way to say thank you, or not thank you, but please.
Por favor. Per favor.
Yeah, por favor. It's two words, right?
Yes.
So in my English mind, if I were to translate those two words literally, it would be for favor, or maybe for yeah, I guess for favor, right?
Mhm.
For favor.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
but that doesn't make sense to me in the English speaking mind.
Yeah. I see what you're saying, because it to us it's please. You don't say for favor.
Hmm.
Oh, you don't?
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
What?
yeah, yeah. Can I for favor ask you something?
Yeah.
Um, now you might say, "Can I ask you a favor?" But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the literal translation of a different language into ours.
Yeah.
So what we do is we might translate it literally first, and then say, "Okay, what is that actually saying?" Well, it's actually saying to us is please.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I like that you brought that up, because now it's like, if I translate it literal, then I guess I've just been setting it up wrong, trying to figure out what the sentence says as far as like in a proper flowing way before just translating it literally.
Yeah, I have kind of an exercise for us this morning, and I feel like it, at least the approach that I take, I think it helps me. It helps me to understand like kind of the process of translation. So I'll kind of share that here
Yeah,
in a
I'd
minute,
love to see that.
maybe after we kind of reintroduce the material. Jake, did you have anything to add or ask?
Unfortunately, yeah. Then I won't take up too much time. I'm really just trying to work through it in my mind. So you have, I've just got a lot of pages here. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. I got a number of questions. In other words, so
Okay.
in the mood, in the indicative mood, you have, the perfect and the imperfect, but you also have the aspect, the imperfective and the perfective. However, when you jump to the participles, you have chapter 27, imperfective participles, chapter 28, perfective participles, and then chapter 30, perfect participles. And just all the definitions. I know, like present, aorist, combinative, and those are the words we generally focus on, but that's one level of confusion where in participles you have imperfective, perfective, and now perfect. But perfect I usually associate with aorist. That would be one question. I have a
You
couple.
said, oh, sorry, you
I
cut
mean, I
out
know
for a
it's
second.
straightforward.
You said the
Oh, sorry.
perfect usually
Is
associated with aorist, and then what?
and then this combinative is also considered a perfect participle.
Okay, I think you might be mixing up the terms a little bit or conflating ideas. So let me help out. Um, so when we talk about present participles, aorist participles, and so those are the tenses, right? Present, aorist, and perfect. Those are the tenses. But what we're actually saying there is not that this um, participle carries tense. It's more so how it's built. It's more so the parts that it uses that indicate that to us. Um,
Hmm.
what we're talking about when we say those terms is this gives us a hint as to the aspect of the participle. The aspect is that imperfective, perfective, and combinative. So when we talk about participles, those are the three terms that we actually are concerned with, not the perfect, not the present, not the aorist. We only concerned as far as finding kind of the breakdown of the word and finding the aspect of the participle. That's the only reason we would even refer to the tense is to help us find the aspect. And so aspect again is basically how the participle is being used, like in what sense.
Oh, you're asking me?
No, yeah, I'm just saying, not asking.
I mean, it makes sense. It just seems like you got the same kind of word being used here, there, everywhere, and trying to fit it definitionally in its place. Just
So
can be a little.
let me I guess give you an example in English. I always like to use the word running because it's the first like action word that comes to my mind. Um, but let's just take the word running in and of itself. That's a participle. because you have the ing ending. You could say I was running. You could say I am running. You could say I will be running. You could say
They have been running.
I have been running. Yeah, those are all different. Um, those are all different aspects of the word running, of the participle running. Now, in English, we don't think in terms of aspect. We think in terms of tense. We think I was running, that's past tense. I am running, that's present tense. I will be running, that's future tense. And that's kind of how our English mind, that's like where we stop in our brains. But that's not how the Greek language does things. And so that may be part of the most confusing thing to us in learning Greek is it doesn't use tense the same way that we do. Not exactly. Certain times it's a little bit more clear. But other times it's just kind of conveying. Another thing too, maybe, is that we're 2,000 years removed reading something that was written about things that had already happened, right? So kind of course you have things like Revelation where it's using the future future type of thing, but yeah. So when I talk about was running, have been running, am running, will be running, think like, in what sense am I using the word running? Not necessarily what tense, but what sense. If all I gave you was running, and you said, okay, well, that doesn't tell me a whole lot. Just that word by itself doesn't tell me anything. Running, okay, running what, when, how? So you could say I was running hard. That would be an adverb attached to the participle. It gives you more information. But I don't want to get too bogged down in the weeds here.
Sure. And that makes sense. That makes sense. It's just putting it in its place. And
I would
figuring
keep
it out.
you, as Devin mentioned, we use these different words to talk about their construction, like present, perfect, or what is the other one? Perfective or the aorist, right? Those words are used to talk about the construction of the participle. But when you want to describe the aspect of each one of them is when you go and use the words imperfective, perfective, and combinative. In fact, I think the only one that that would be used in both situations, either for construction or the aspect, would be perfective, not the other ones. Like when you're describing the construction or how you build the the present one, is not called imperfective. It is just in the aspect. So I think probably those words sound very similar. Probably perfective, imperfective, perfect, present. They can sound very similar, but I think only the Oris one would be perfective, either describing how it is built and also on its stance.
Yeah, allow me another opportunity to explain the aspect. When we talk about perfective aspect, think something that's been completed, and that's all the aspect is getting at. Perfective aorist is perfective. So kind of maybe tie those two ideas together in your mind, and that's why they're almost used interchangeably here. I think the reason that they try to use different words than the tense words is because it's not really focused on tense like verbs are.
Mm.
It's built from the verb, so it has that aorist characteristic, but it's more the characteristic that it's concerned about, not the tense. And that's what aspect is. It's kind of the characteristic of the tense. So perfective, that's something that's happened. So I was running. Okay. It's been completed. It's been perfected. I am running. I haven't finished that. It's imperfect. It hasn't been completed. It hasn't been perfected yet. I am. So that's present, right? That's the present participle. It's imperfective. Combinative is both, right? It's I was running. I still am. I have been running. That puts it in the past tense, but it carries into now. I have been running. Like I haven't stopped. I started at some point, and I'm still going. Does that kind of help bring
Yeah,
it down?
that makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think
Okay.
the biggest thing, and I shared this with Sam the other day, is I feel like I can never be sure with certain things. With, like, for instance, aorist is generally past tense, but it's not always, and apparently, and just all of these, like, oh, I think I finally got it, and then there's like, oh, but this exception, and there was one thing, and it's not Dave's fault, it's not my fault, it's just how the Greek is. I remember asking him, like, oh, if it does have an article, it's this. It's adjectival, I can't remember at the moment. And if it doesn't, it's this. And I was like, is that always the case? And then at the bottom it said, no, if it doesn't have an article, it could be this or this. And I'm thinking, oh, goodness, that's just fantastic.
Yeah.
So
If the article's there, it's a dead giveaway. If it's not, you have a little bit more work to do.
right. Now, another question I had, which just doesn't make sense to me, I don't get it. It could be a clear cut thing, is we go from the moods where it's active, present active, and then you have for one paradigm, and then you have middle passive for the second paradigm. When you get the participles, it's three paradigms for active, middle, passive. And I'd asked Dave about it, and it made sense. Like it was starting to become clear. And then we get to this chapter, and it's back to two. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness. And I didn't see any real clarity there.
You're talking about moods or voices.
Voices.
Yeah, because I think you started mentioning moods, and well, I might be wrong, but I think moods is related with indicative or not indicative, right? Voices is about active, middle, and passive.
Right. But yeah, with this participle, chapter 30, it goes back to two, which is similar to the moods. I wasn't really quite sure why.
Where is
Unless there just isn't a Greek word. I don't know.
The best thing I can offer you is probably not going to satisfy your quench for knowledge there, but I think that we like to see things fit in perfectly symmetrical boxes,
Mm-hmm.
and what we're dealing with is a spoken language in written form, and so what you're going to run into is not everything. I mean, even with English, like not everything falls into a neat category. You know, and even when you're talking about tense, like it's just not the exact same. I get that with English and Greek, but I still like to use the run, ran, or swim, swam, swum, like in that form. So like with run, um, and you put it in past tense, it's ran. You don't have like another past tense that's ran with an extra, ned. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but like some words, I mean, some words have that ed ending. All I'm trying to get at here is basically sometimes um, forms are shared between words, and that's, I mean, you see that back in the verbs a lot, where the middle passive is shared. Um,
Mm-hmm.
in some of these other ones, you have, the aorist. There's a different form the for the middle and different form for the passive, um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just how those words were designed.
I'll accept that.
Yeah.
It's a tough accept, but I'll accept it. And in speaking of the wishing you had a box for it, perfectly curated box. What I would like to see is the second perfect there. I don't think we got time to cover it in class,
We can
but
mention it.
I don't. Yeah, I didn't really know. I know there's just it says there's on 30.18.
Hmm.
There's 6 verbs
Yeah.
um, that have second perfects. Di Talks about the form and doesn't really say much else in
Hmm.
regards to difference. It says a couple of things, but I don't know. In my mind, I'm thinking, well, if there's a second perfect, let's talk about it and let's put a box there.
Yeah.
But
Um, there's other things too that occur so little times that we're not even really covering it in this class. Um,
mhm.
now, I don't know if we mentioned the pluperfect yet, but it's just like a blip in our whole curriculum because it's it's hardly there. And same with the second perfect active, because of course there's no second perfect middle passive. Um,
Okay. Um,
it's just an oddity, more or less.
okay. I'll accept that. Uh, and the genitive absolute actually made sense to me when we covered it, um, but it has been a couple of days. Uh, so I think I'm good. I think I'm good
Okay.
relatively. I know you had something prepared, so I want to get to that too.
Okay. Yeah, it's just a couple of exercises. Andres, did you have anything you wanted to add or comment on, or?
Well, probably I said something wrong, so I just wanted to correct it. I mentioned we use differently the words present aorist perfect, imperfective, perfective, and combinative when we're talking about structure. But in fact, I just checked, and in fact, the book used both terms. They just put some of them in a parenthesis when it's talking about the name. Probably because the tense is directly related to the aspect, right? Uh, but that was it. I mis-explained that, but I think your explanation was very clear. So I just want to erase my intervention and that part. Just
Okay. Yeah. The tense just tells us the aspect, and that's all we really need to be concerned about.
yeah.
Okay. Um, yeah, I got. I did a thing on. Let me get things.
Well, probably there is just one thing I really would like to mention.
Okay.
Uh, I don't know if you were able to, and this was very interesting, at least on my part, by the writer of the book, or I would say sometimes I feel like when he was trying to do the book, he invited different people to do the exegetical interventions here. Were you able to check the description of this chapter 30?
Yeah, the exegetical insight at the beginning.
Yeah, the exegetical insight of Ephesians 2:8.
Yeah,
For me, it was very interesting. I was like, oh, I definitely will probably quote this, or this is a very good material in order to explain Ephesians 2:8 to somebody else, in the sense that uh, the point he has is that the effects of salvation are ongoing. Here says in parts of believers' life, which is usually something that denominational preachers don't say. For them, is you're already saved. You Nobody can take that from you. You don't have anything to do.
yeah, and
But
can't be
apparently,
lost.
yeah. But
I already,
apparently, grammar is here saying, "Hey, you are in a process, right?" So I was just wanted to mention that. For me, it was very interesting to see a denominational theologist, or whatever Paul Jackson is, giving this explanation in Ephesians chapter 2:8, and it really worth to keep in mind, in the sense that we could even tell to someone, I mean, go to a Baptist or somebody, like, hey, this is what your people is saying. Look at this,
Hmm.
and it's very, very, very good. I think we agree on everything he says on this uh,
yeah,
exegetical aspect.
I want to say Dave covered a little bit of it. I'll go back and read it. I did read the first paragraph, and I'm thinking, why is he translating from the NIV? And then he said, oh, the NIV does not reveal the full meaning of that. I kind of chuckled because I'm not a big fan of the NIV. I'll read from it, but I won't preach from it.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was a neat little insight. I'll have to go back and read through it again. I appreciate you bringing that up, Andreas.
Hmm.
Yeah, me. After class one day, me and Andres were going back. Actually, he had some things prepared that we didn't get to in class, but me and him went and I think looked at Ephesians 2:8, either 2:8 or 2:9, and I remember looking at this phrase and thinking that says sosmenoi, and it's a participle. It's not this you've been saved. It's being saved,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
I mean it's I think it's is it aorist?
No, this is perfect.
Perfect. That's
Perfect.
right. Yeah. So um, of course there is in the perfect in the combinative aspect, right? There
Hmm.
is this sense of there was a start. Like I have been running, right? I started running at some point and I'm still running. Well, I'm being saved. I obviously started, I mean, I was saved initially at some point, but I'm still being saved. And I really like this exegetical. I actually shared it with somebody this morning.
Oh, very good. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think it's very interesting, especially because of that you just mentioned. He's using the perfect tense, which we know this means that the effects of the actions come to the time of the speaker, right, or the writer.
Hmm.
So, of course, the church in Philippi once, no, that would be the church in Ephesus. Once Paul write this, they were already in the process of salvation, but he uses the perfect. So he shows these effects, that process still ongoing. And I think here Paul Jackson mentions as well about sanctification and glorification. How all of this goes together. It took my attention definitely when I read it.
Yeah, and I think some people, when they argue from the English Bible, they would say, "See here, it says you have been saved.
Yeah,
That's it. You have been. It's in the past. It's all done. No more." But
yeah,
they're missing a big point when they skip out the Greek. They leave the Greek out of the discussion.
yeah. It's not English. It's a Greek perfect participle.
Yeah,
So it
Yeah.
carries an aspect which English cannot reveal.
yeah, and that este is present.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's a present perfect situation.
Yeah, Amy Bear, right?
Yeah,
That's really neat. Yeah, easy one to go to as well. Just say, oh, well,
yeah,
let's look what the Greek is and pull it out, and it can give you a better understanding. That's a part of. I mean, a part of why we do this is if I'm preparing a sermon on 10 verses and everything looks pretty clear cut, dry, and then I get to one Greek word that has a differing thing. I'm like, oh, let me look at that, and I'm like, oh, well, that's what it. Okay, and just to pinpoint different areas here and there that because you got to be careful. You never know. Like you said, if you read Ephesians 2:8, and I and I parsed out the English instead of parsing out the Greek, I'd come up with a different understanding, most likely theologically.
yeah,
And
yeah. Very much so.
Yeah. So yes, definitely. If you add that to the theory you have been developing, I would say we because I'm very engaged with that idea of in grace.
Oh
Both
yeah,
things together go very well. Uh,
yeah.
Probably just to put Jake into context, I think is the preposition used in Ephesians 2:8, which is translated by grace. It's in other places translated as in as well. Is that correct, David?
Let me double check. So
So
Ephesians 2:8. Um, there is no preposition
uh,
um, before grace in Greek.
what was it?
Te gar kariti.
Oh, gar.
Yeah,
Is that is a conjunction, right?
it's a conjunction. It's a post-positive conjunction, and it is that kind of continuation of thought carried from verse 7.
Okay.
So Logos calls it a logical explanatory. So he's explaining more. He's expounding from what he said before.
Yeah. Probably what I wanted to say is um, the noun is in dative. That was the point we were talking about, right?
The noun grace in Ephesians 2:8, where it says by grace, it's
Yeah.
the dative noun. That's right.
So it can be translated as well as in grace. Is that correct?
Yeah. So when you think of the dative noun, there, if I go back to the chapter on dative nouns, which I think is 7 or 8, 7. All right, genitive, dative. This is how he suggests. On page 60 in the textbook, it says the dative case expresses the ideas of in, with, and especially to. So you have to do. I mean, you do have to use context to understand what the dative case is conveying. If
Mhm.
there is a preposition, it's a little bit easier because that preposition is going to kind of give you the word to supply with the dative. But in some cases, there is no preposition and it's just a dative noun. So the question is, well, what do you do with that? Here, they've said it's by grace you have been saved through faith. Well, number one, they're translating this the have been saved a little bit in a way that's misleading. Slightly. It's of course there's truth to that statement. You've been saved, but it kind of leaves out the aspect of still being saved that is carried by the perfect. But then also this by grace could just as easily be in grace, and the reason that it might be significant to us is, and again, in kind of those English debates, English discussions, people might sit down on the by and say that's the means, that's the instrument, and it has nothing to do with you. That it's completely by grace. You know that the instrument of your salvation was totally separate. Who has grace? It's God. God is the one who gives you grace for salvation, and it's by that grace that you're saved.
Mhm.
Kind of the means, the method, the mode. It's all Him. Well, when you change it to in grace or with grace, it's the force isn't as strong as it would be with the word by.
That makes sense.
It's kind of more in conjunction with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean,
Or it can be
I'm
also
familiar with a lot of certainly the Calvinistic arguments concerning it. That just to add words where there really aren't, or to overemphasize words that as we're starting to see here that might carry a different meaning than what the English just naturally reads, and so it's really important. It's really cool.
Yeah, and I don't know that it's so big of a deal that we have to change the translation, but I think it's just important for us to note
Mm-hmm.
that um, if we anchor down on the English rendering, the common English renderings of some of these things, we might go too far in how we apply those things, in which I think is evident by the way that so many religious groups do today.
Right. Yeah, and so in a debate or an argument, it'd be good to say, um, or at least show the other side, but then grant the argument that it does say by there. Like, hey, it could mean this, and that'd be a good thing to point out too. Is there's a different word that it could be used for.
Hmm. Yeah, I first noticed that kind of phenomenon, I guess you'd say, in Hebrews 11, because those verses, when you go down the line, it says
By
by faith,
faith,
by
by
faith.
faith. Yeah.
It's just piste. It's not
Mhm.
like dia piste. It's not. It's not so clear cut as here is the channel. It's the means by which they were
Mm.
saved. And it could just as well be in faith or with faith, which I think carries. Here's the way I see it. It could be argued again from the English perspective that if they were if they by faith, the person could argue that see it was their faith, they were saved, and then from that salvation, then they did the things that they were supposed to do,
Mhm.
and that go back to Noah, right? It was by faith, so he was already saved before he got on the ark. Well, hold on, that's a miscalculation there.
Mhm.
In faith makes perfect sense when you figure what he was doing on the ark. It was in conjunction with his belief in God, his trust in God, that he did things and was saved.
And that honestly makes more sense in my practical mind. In faith, he did this. Now, by faith means essentially the same thing, but it can be what's a good word? Abused.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So you see where I'm coming from.
yes, 100%. Because in faith, you get the just immediate. It's hard to abuse that. I mean, I'm sure people would find a way over the centuries, but by faith, as if you know, obviously it's done in faith, but to say that you know you can, there's just so many different lines you can go down with that, and yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I thought it was a kind of an interesting phenomenon and something that might be worth exploring more. But um, anyway, we'll go ahead and get to the exercise here.
Cool.
But that's something for you to think about.
Absolutely. I'm glad y'all brought it up.
Yeah. All right. So you got your GST pencil on the side.
I notice
Yeah.
somebody's been working with that sharpened down thing.
Yeah. You guys have been writing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So your pencil's almost done. Need a new one soon. All right. So I thought this would be a neat little exercise. I went through and did, remember that search tool that I was showing you guys before,
Yeah.
at symbol and stuff? I went through and tried to find some easier verses or phrases in the New Testament that use perfect participles. I'll go ahead and give you a heads up. This one doesn't have one. It uses a genitive absolute. So
Okay.
I'll figure out how to translate that one as we get to it. But do you want to go ahead and give this a shot?
Yeah. Number 2 looked more familiar than number 1. But in the sense of I know more words from number 2.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
So
I'll
let's try this. Let's try to identify some parts of speech like nouns, um, whatever we can, and then identify some words that we know, and then we'll try to translate the sentence.
Okay. I'm gonna start with number 1.
Yeah.
Kai is and usually.
Okay.
Meaning like 4 different things or 5, but I'm seeing poyane and poyunti that look to be same word.
Okay. And what is it from?
I know we went over the word. I know it rings a bell.
Mm-hmm.
Not
It's
sure.
poieto.
Poyeo. I
Do you
remember
know what it means?
It means what?
Do you know what it means?
I ought to. I will if you give it to me.
Okay, I'm gonna give you this one. You see that?
Do or make. Okay. Yeah, that ring. Yeah, that comes back to me. Okay.
Yeah.
The amartia.
Hamartia.
Is that sinner?
It's not sinner, but
Sinner.
yeah.
Okay.
And don't forget that rough breathing.
Hamartia.
Yeah.
Esteem is right. Is it is. Un is that it's either not or it's therefore. I think it's therefore.
Yeah.
alto at the very end. Alto with a subscript is I'm just gonna guess he, but you know,
Okay.
oh yeah, I usually think of omega nu as plural, so omega I generally think is like singular. And then the poyun t, the u is a diphthong, but you got a nu in there. That new tau is that morpheme doolally we've been doing.
So what
And
is this?
it's a not a perfect participle, but it is a participle.
Uh-huh.
And throwing a guess out there, because there's like 2 or 3 of them with that ending, I think. Aorist active. That's a guess.
Okay. So I want to translate this for you as
Do
doing. All right. And we'll just put aorist up here.
okay. Now Cologne.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I went to Greece, they taught me one Greek word. In Italy, we said "bon appetito," and in Greece, it was "kaliorexi." But as it relates to cologne, I don't know. I
So,
remember
so
studying it, but
are those phrases that have the same meaning in English?
"bon appetito" and "kaliorexi," yes.
Okay. So what does bone mean?
When?
Good.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So cologne. Don't tell me that's good. If that's good, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's
It is good.
from
Really? Huh,
Kalos, right?
Yeah.
Kalos.
Yeah. From Carlos.
that's crazy.
Yeah. So bon appetito would be like good appetite
Hmm,
in,
interesting.
in our English mind, but it carries over to a more accurate phrase than that.
Hmm. Now the May, I always, I really don't know. It could be
It's
40 different things in my mind.
what are your top three?
Well, without reading if I read the sentence, I could put it together. But uh, we was you not. That'd be top 4, but I don't know.
Okay, I'll give you since you said it, I'll give it to you.
Not okay. And not okay. And then idoti, the very end. Uh,
Within the end of chapter 30, like the very last, very, very last section.
Idos is actually a perfect participle of oida. Oida's house, right?
No, that's oikos.
Oh, I was close. It carries a present meaning. It occurs 51 times.
Oida is,
Oida.
oida is kind of another word for gnosko.
Oh, like to know
Mm-hmm.
or knowing.
Okay, so
But yeah,
perfect.
knowing
Primitive.
is knowing
Uh,
was
we'll just say knowing. I just want you to see that it's perfect, not necessarily try to translate it different.
okay.
Just yet. All right. So knowing. Well, I guess we'll just leave it at that.
So looking at it, I would think that therefore would generally go for it first. So therefore, therefore, knowing, doing good, making good, and not do doing sin. He is not doing sin.
So let's ask the question here first. Is this this actually let me this word edati, is that participle functioning adverbially or adjectively?
Verbally.
What verb would it be?
Well, it shares the T ending with poiunti. I don't know if that
What is
means it's connected or not, but it
what
looks
is
like.
this participle? Um, what
Oh,
verb do you think that might be?
yeah, that's a participle too. Um, and where would that go back to? I would think a noun if it's doing something. Um,
Here's your noun.
what
Actually, it's
hello?
an. I think this might be an
The
adjective,
good,
actually, but it's functioning like a noun.
so the good one or the one
Good.
good
Let's say good thing.
good thing.
Because
Okay. All right. Okay. So it falls back to that one. Does idati fall back to that one too? Can you have two participles go into one word?
you can say knowing the good, like knowing the good thing.
Okay. Knowing the good thing, doing and not doing, sin is.
Is this what is this? What part of speech is that?
A, a verb?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've. I think this might be an infinitive, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
Um, but I want to say it has some kind of a dative. This Yoda is giving me a dative feel.
Okay. So to do or to make
Okay,
or would
let's
be
just
one
say
rendition.
let's just say to do. Okay,
So therefore, knowing the good thing to do, I added the, and he is not doing sin.
not doing sin. There's a comma here, right?
Oh man, I missed that. Okay, so therefore, knowing the good thing to do and not do,
And not doing.
and not doing, doing and not doing. Therefore, knowing the good thing to do, doing and not to do, or not doing and do, sin uh, is he, or sinful is he,
So
or to
this,
him.
um, this is a dative alto, but it's here at the end of the sentence with this S10. Um, um, we're gonna make this um, the what you call it. And we're going to supply the dative word here.
It is sin to him. So could estin be it is?
Yeah.
Okay. It is sent to him.
In fact, it is because the estin is the third person.
Okay. Okay. So therefore, yeah, the first part is still trying to make it make sense. Therefore, knowing the good thing to do and not doing it.
Okay.
It is sin to him.
Does that ring a bell?
Therefore, knowing the good thing.
I think some translations will say the right thing.
Only thing that rings a bell is Paul in Romans 7, where he's talking about, my will wants to do the right thing, but I don't do the right thing.
Isn't it? Sorry.
Go ahead. You have a guess?
Yeah, isn't it in James?
Yeah, it's from James. I don't remember the verse I pulled it from, to be honest, but if you want to find it, I'll pull it up. I have my Bible open. Can you guys can't see my screen still, can you?
James 4:17.
Okay. Sharing a different screen. Yeah. So let me. Therefore, this is the New American Standard. To one who knows the right thing to do and does not do it, to him it is sin.
Interesting.
So the one on the right is the Greek version of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So therefore, to one who knows. So the word who there, the right thing, we got that. To do and does not do. Oh, I was stuck on the doing and does not do it or not do, and then adds the word it. Okay.
Yeah. See this poiein over here? It is, I don't know, you can't see it, but I can see pop it up on my screen.
Yes. Yeah.
It says, yeah, you can't see it. Anyway, it's a present active infinitive, which we haven't gotten to infinitives yet, but to do makes the most sense in context anyway.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Makes sense.
Yeah, but so perfect. So this adati is perfect active participle, singular dative masculine. So the one who knows, one knowing. You see how those things kind of say the same thing, but one sounds smoother. If I said,
Yes.
one knowing good to do, and then instead say, and it is dative, so I guess that does make sense with the two. To one knowing the right thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I add the word who, but it conveys the same thing.
Yeah. So that this who now is a supplied word. If we were to go, I don't remember all of the different. Oh, actually, I have it here.
It's not italicized, which is interesting. The word "the" is italicized.
Yeah, because there's no article there in the
Right.
Greek. Remember, I think you even said the same thing. You were like, you supplied the with the right thing, the good thing.
Right. Or what I'm saying is, with the New American Standard, you have italicized words that aren't there in the Greek are supplied, and the word who isn't.
Mm.
It's as if the word who directly comes from one of the words being translated.
Yeah. So what they do there is they render the word edati as the one who knows, to one who knows. So
Gotcha.
that's their translation of that word. The is not there at all. So
Gotcha.
what they do there is try to add things for clarity.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I've seen it before where sometimes they go really too far with how at least I think with the things that they add. I don't think it's always bad to supply the reader with some context when it's not explicitly stated in that verse, but you can go too far with that pretty easily.
Definitely.
All right.
So if you know the right translation and you don't make it, you're in sin.
Yeah.
Nah,
Anyone
I'm
who
kidding.
takes away or anyone who takes away or adds.
Yeah.
You want to do the second one?
Yeah.
I think we got time for it. Maybe.
We can either do the second. We can either do the second perfect participle one that we have here, or you want to give a shot with this genitive absolute phrase.
Might as well do the harder one.
I don't know which one is harder. I know this one's longer.
I know the bottom one. I don't know many of the words, so we'll go with that one.
Okay.
So Kai's in there. There's our and
Okay.
usually, or but, and or but.
We can just go ahead and
After a little dot.
we don't have to know necessarily right now.
Gotcha. Altu is Altu. Well, there's both of them. Of him or he.
So of him generally comes across as his.
His. Okay. So genitive. That makes sense.
Yeah. Most likely possessive.
There's a altoy or no, an alto.
Yeah.
So he or him. He.
Remember last time it was to him. Remember
Okay, that works.
here?
Native. Okay.
Yeah, dative to him.
Okay.
Let's just try to let's just put to him so we can at least remember that okay, this is dative.
Okay.
If it ends up being something different, no big deal.
The oi matetai, the oi looks
Oi.
to be a plural, plural nominative masculine. So the disciples.
Yeah, very good.
To the disciples, right? Because it's dative.
I don't think it's dative.
It's not.
It's
Are you saying because of the iota here or here?
Yeah, just never mind.
What would I want to clear. I mean, you bring up a good point though, because things like this we should definitely check, right?
You think I know what verse is it? I would check. Yeah, it's definitely not dative.
The dative plural ends in a iota sigma.
It's in fact the nominative, masculine plural.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's something, things that typically ring a certain bell in our minds. Like you see a iota at the end and you think dative. You're not, way off for that. It's just something we need to check on. So I actually thank you for bringing that up. Do you know death?
I usually think of or because.
I usually think but.
Oh, there we go. That
I
works
don't,
too.
I don't even know how it sounds.
Usually, just one of those words that just kind of fills in there. So okay, but
Yeah, usually it's a logical contrastive. It's but this happened.
all right. Two
Sometimes
suck.
it's and, but it's a conjunction.
I
Two
think it can
conclude.
be also as well, like giving continuation to an idea or so. Sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. Just think conjunction here, but I think um, yeah, that's good enough for now.
The
Yeah,
two.
and I think usually in translation also most of the time goes at the beginning, right? Even when Greek doesn't put it on the beginning of it.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
called a post positive because yeah, it's
All right.
after post, but it's positive, meaning it goes first.
The ox loose looks like um ox low, ox loss. I don't know. I think that was the one for crowd.
Yeah,
Mm, yeah.
and it's um, not an X sound; it's a k. It's a ak.
Ak. Ah, okay. Ak. And the oos is oos. That's a accusative, I think.
I think you're right.
Os
Yeah,
all
yeah. Accusative plural is us ending. Yeah, you're right.
and oos. Okay. So the crowds,
Or
or yeah, I guess you could say the crowds. Ace, I mean, depends on where you go contextually, but for or into, I can't remember. I want to say those were the main ones, but I can't remember. Is there something I'm missing?
um, to, into, and we'll see which one fits.
Okay. The op ta ta apos or
Or
oros
yeah.
or eyes
Um,
or or
no, this isn't. First of all, this is singular, and
true true. I don't know.
it's top.
That's the article. The masculine.
Is it masculine?
Is it one of those weird ones where it's nominative, but it's like feminine or neuter?
Yeah, it's neuter.
Is it still is it nominative still?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh well,
See?
I guess it could be accusative too.
Yeah. Yep. Well, actually, it is going to be accusative because of the ace. So yeah,
Uh,
it's neuter accusative.
so the or I think of oration like speaking, but I don't think that's it. Mountain Dew.
I'm pretty sure it's mountain.
It's mountain.
Pretty sure.
Okay.
Which one?
Or us. I
Yeah.
wish I would to be sure, but
Yeah, it is.
okay.
The Cathisantos. Um, that ending looks kind of familiar. The Santos. You have the new Tau,
Yeah,
and
what did Intel tell us?
the new Tau is the one we covered earlier. Arist something. Um, Kathy.
participle.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. There's definitely participle. That's what I meant to say. Sorry. I was jumping guns a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Now you mentioned there was going to be a genitive absolute. I bet you it's going to be there. The and, that, and the L2. I could be wrong. We'll find out. But I don't know what the word is. What the word means. So aorist and os is, well, that's a masculine ending. Also, what would it point to? Well, maybe it just point to itself in the genitive absolute. I can't really remember. Yeah, I don't know the word.
Which one? Kathisantos?
Correct. Yeah.
Let's look it up.
All right.
See if there's any kaf words that make sense.
Katha. Kathaper is an
Kathistan.
adverb, which means just as.
Are you
But
looking
there's
Kathisantos?
Yes.
Katharoth, Kathu. This is Kathi.
Yeah, Kathy is the stem, definitely.
Yeah, Kathi.
There's a
Or
Kathe. Oh, Kathi. I sit down. Seat. Kathi. And then there's a Kathistemi, which that's too long for it probably. So Kathis.
I sit.
I sit.
Yeah, that's a me verb, which has a totally different. You just it functions differently. The me verbs, act differently in different forms.
So I was his I don't know, was sitting
We can say was.
the idon at the beginning. I can't remember what idon is. Idon. I should know it.
It's somewhere. It's somewhere.
I'll look. Oh, it's on this page.
Okay.
Idios. Idu. One of those. Ido. No, it wouldn't be idios.
Mm-mm. I want to say it might come from Adon, which is at epsilon or
Mm-mm.
a second form.
Ide.
It's
Which is.
the lexical form is completely different.
Yeah, I thought so. What is the lexical form?
Wow.
Oh, so Omicron.
You said that with such a big grin on your face. That's funny.
Can you find that one, Jake?
What's that one?
Orao.
If it starts with an Omicron, I might be
It's a
fine.
rough reading. Orao.
Oh, horror.
Yeah, but it starts with the Omicron.
Or okay, yeah. It's making me think. So like oration? I don't know. It sounds like the other word we're looking at. Or odon, or is it hodon?
Wow.
Horao. No.
Yeah. Oh, Omicron route.
Yes, I see it there. I see it. Oh, Edon is one of those. Well, that's only showing the mood. Well, I guess you'd really only need it for that one. Edon.
Yeah. I think that's probably going to be a participle. I think that Omicron new is a participle morpheme or ending. for shorter, like that first person, or I don't remember exactly. But I think Omicron Nu is an ending for. Looking at your chart,
Hedon. So what would that be? Plural genitive? I see, or we see. We see, but we see the crowds.
I'm going to say because I do believe it's participle. I'm going to
See,
put seeing.
okay, but seeing the crowds, in Nebe. I don't know a Nebe, unfortunately.
I don't either. I'll look
So
it up.
let's look it up.
I bet it comes from Anabino.
Yeah, that's a good guess. I said that as if I was a teacher and I actually knew it, but I really don't. And buh. No, there's no Anaba, so it has to be Anaba, you would think.
Yeah, Anabino. Look at Anabino.
There's Blepsa, and then Anaba. Yeah, okay. So that's imperfect for that one. No, go down. Future Arist Anabane. Anabane. But it won't have the V or the new. So I was coming up or came up. Came. Come. Ming up. Okay.
Try to translate this first part with what we have.
So, but seeing the crowds coming up into the mountain.
Okay.
And sitting to him were his disciples. I bet you Proselthon is with, or I'm guessing completely, sitting next to, or pros. I know it's just that additional in or beginning toward
Mm-hmm.
is the pros.
So Elthane is from Erkamai, which is I go or come.
Um,
So if this is come or go,
come
uh,
toward.
yeah, come toward. All right, we can leave it at that. We don't have to have an accurate translation yet. Um, all right. I don't know if you recognize this yet, but or at least kind of maybe a little bit of what it kind of might be referring to. But we can see. Let me actually do this. I'm gonna. Okay, we're almost done. Just want to show you what we're working with here. Okay. So it comes from Matthew 5:1. And it says, Idon de tous oculus onebe esta horas, when Jesus saw the crowds. So Jesus isn't there in the Greek text.
Yep.
But Idon is. And that is an aorist active participle. So I was correct. And it's referring to, it's a nominative, right? It's nominative masculine singular. It's referring to somebody seeing. So who was the one seeing? It was Jesus, right?
Must be.
Yeah. Yeah. It's talking
Yeah.
about-
Jesus. Okay.
So him seeing the crowds, he went up on a bino. So coming up actually should have been that was aorist active. So he went up. That would be kind of the aorist concept. He went
Okay.
up. They have on the mountain. To the mountain would be fine, but on the mountain probably makes probably the most sense because it's on a bino. Up went
Mhm.
up. Okay, so we can see how they have that on a bino
Right.
on the mountain. And Kai, after there's the one of our supply words that we typically see after he sat down. Now that is from this participle, though.
Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. After sitting down or having sat down.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
or really, since it's aorist, I struggle with putting having because that sounds more like perfect to me. Having sat down, that kind of gives it gives it a sense of a perfect. So sitting down, and then there's that al two that genitive, right? So here's your it's like a genitive absolute phrase. Um,
Okay.
no, proselthon is not. Kathy Santos al two is sitting down of him. But literally, if we took it literally, but since it's a genitive absolute, all it's telling us is this is kind of an aside phrase. This is uh, giving us more information to the sentence that's not connected to how's the chapter worded? Um, an absolute construction is one in which there is
Absolute.
no grammatical relationship to the rest of the sentence. So this phrase is just extra. And he sat down.
Okay.
But of course, it's kind of in the storytelling mode. So it's after he sat down, came to him, the disciples of him.
Okay. Makes
So
sense.
we were pretty close there, but we I mean, even me, I'm not all the way fully there as far as like translating things to the exact right way. When I start like on a bay,
Mm-hmm.
I thought coming up, but It's not a participle; it's an aorist verb. So that should have told me it was um, came up or went up, come or go, right? That past tense went. Certain things like that, I'm not all the way there yet. And then in my initial run through, I did L2 as his because that's typically how it's translated. But since this is a genitive absolute phrase, his doesn't apply. It's just that side commentary to the sentence, and he was sitting.
Gotcha. Okay.
Pretty good.
Yeah, hopefully this kind of stuff is helpful.
Definitely. For sure.
Like looking at the text and seeing how some of these things that we're learning actually appear, I think is really cool.
No, that helps out a ton. Helps out a ton. And the more practice I do like this, the better I'll be, for sure.
Yeah, all of us. We all need practice, and it helps us all grow.
Well, I appreciate it. I know we're over, but I'm kind of glad we did because that last one was a little scary before we started portioning it out. So
Yeah, but even stuff like that, like you can. There's a way. There's a way to get through it.
and we
Well,
did.
yeah, like you said, we're over, so I'm gonna go ahead and let you out and get out of here myself.
Cool.
Gracias, adiós.
Adios. Adios. Thanks, guys. Appreciate y'all a lot.